My name's Jen. I'm the East Yorkshire Place Partner Engagement Officer, and I work with schools and community.
I'm Kristine Richardson and I am the Pilot Manager for the East Yorkshire Place Partner, one of the original 12 LDPs here in Yorkshire. And I sit and support the operational delivery of the work, supporting the officers, but also supporting the strategic elements as well, so feeding and supporting that middle area.
Hi, I'm Claire Farrow. So I work at Hull City Council and I'm one of the strategic leads for our Sport England place-based expansion. But we are really new to this whole programme of work. We're just in the development stage and we're just starting. So really pleased to be hearing from some more experienced colleagues about the matrix. So in relation to the matrix then, in the conditions, which conditions did you find a bit more difficult to crack and to go through?
I think it depends on what level you work at. In terms of operationally, we would have different answers to the more strategic team. So, for example, collaboration, community-led, we would find that sort of really strong. We could get the strong answers for the matrix for that, whereas the ones around policy and building sort of environments, that may be sort of ones where you would more lead to the strategic sort of team of who you're working with really in delivering the matrix.
From the project works and the streams of areas that we kind of cover in Withensea, there are really strong elements where we can give those really strong examples, especially, as Jen said, in community and collaboration. But some of those other conditions, it kind of takes a little bit more time and designated space, and we need to make sure that we've got that representation to cover all levels of the organisation.
Yeah, no answer that you give or no example you give is wrong, because it will probably fit into a different condition as well. So if it does fit into community-led, it will also potentially fit into collaboration, and don't be afraid to give that same example.
So did you find any particular conditions really tricky?
One of the examples that we spoke around in our last matrix section was the collaboration, but most importantly around that policy. And we all sat in the room and we felt like, oh, we're not really doing anything like this. And we kind of just, for us all to be lost for words is very unheard of, because we're all very people person, very bubbly. And it was kind of, oh my gosh, doesn't fit. But having that kind of time to unpiece it, and what we've found, as I mentioned before, that we don't look at the numbers now. It's actually, what is that description telling us, and then breaking it down, because sometimes there's multiple paragraphs, multiple descriptions. And then when you piece it down like that, all of a sudden it felt like the penny just dropped for us as a team, didn't it? It was like, oh, we are doing that. And all of a sudden it reinforces like the great work that's happening within the community in the place.
Yeah, definitely. And with different work streams, so for example, myself and Adam, we work with different community members on different projects. Work that I'm doing, I may see sort of further up the matrix, whereas Adam might be working on his projects where he might see them maybe not as, certain ones not as developed enough, or vice versa. So it's how we can balance that out, ensuring the examples are we've got them all in terms of where we're going.
One of the other conditions that we found really challenging as a group, and I think was the condition 8 around the
physical and built environments. It's not a line of stream we've been working towards. So when it came to answering that question, it didn't fit with the work we'd been doing. And within yourself, you want to try and get a score on every single one and try and justify, but actually it doesn't matter, because the ones that you are working on are the ones where you need to be building the strongest and really concentrating on getting that positive feel, the positive experiences to make that condition that you do work on. For example, for us it's community-led collaboration, they're the ones that we need to focus in on. But it does give you that unnervy feel of, I'm not doing it, I should be doing it, don't worry about it. I think pilots and also new places through the programme, if you do have a larger area, it may be worth bringing in sort of the wider systems, the wider your housing teams, just to see what answers they can give you regarding this. because they may have evidence where they can back this up that you might not know about because it's not been your focus. So reach out to as many people as you can.
So is it actually making a difference to physical activity at your place, all this matrix work, would you say?
Indirectly, because it guides us to where our work stream, not our work streams, because our work stream comes from the community and what we're doing, but it gives us that backbone in sort of making sure we cover the elements within the conditions and within our work, and then feeding it through to the community partners, to the partners that come into the town, also partners that sort of work around the edges. So the community, certain members of the community won't even know the maturity matrix exists.
No.
But they're the ones that probably give you the examples.
Yeah.
In the work, and they're the ones that you can use as the examples. Because the last thing you want to do is put this in front of them. They'll run a mile.
Yeah. I nearly did when I first opened it.
I think we all did, you're not alone.
I think one thing we had to do at the very beginning was turn it all into a language that the community would understand.
That's a good idea.
And break it down. Even from Sport England pieces that we was getting, we used to sit and go through it and turn it into what we used to call with speak.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Because then they're on the journey with us.
Yeah.
And rather than just putting out something that is just alien. So I would definitely sort of work on different ways you can word it potentially to get the responses that you want, really.
So from our point of view now, we are developing to ensure that the matrix is being captured, and we're even capturing that from the community's point of view and the organisations that we're working with in place. And they may not be able to reference the matrix, as you said, but how do we capture that, and how do we make sure that we've got that whole broad, holistic representation of what we're doing? And I don't think we can say that that is causing people to be physically active, but indirectly it absolutely is, because it's ensuring all of our work is aligned, it's meeting our objectives, it's keeping us to what are we here for, our why. And then what we're doing is we're continually pushing ourselves to make sure that we can challenge and do the best that we can do, and making sure that we're reflecting to make sure that we're having that impact.
Yeah.
And that is so important. So 100% we can stand here now, can't we, as a pilot, and we can say we are making a difference. More people are getting physically active. We are reducing inactivity, and we are tackling inequalities. And I think having this matrix as a framework, it gives us the confidence and a measurable toolkit to be able to demonstrate the impact that we're having. And that's so important.
So you have got some good tangible evidence then. So that reassures me a bit more as a new person to this whole thing, so that it is useful. So thank you for that. So in terms of what kind of, you talk a lot about evidence, like what type of evidence do you need to provide? So you sit down, you go through the matrix, you look at the conditions. So yeah, can you give us some examples of the types of evidence you're putting forward to help score yourself?
So one around sort of collaboration, community, working with the schools is, we've got a lot of voluntary organisations. At the time when we first started, the school only had one after school club. We've now introduced community organisations within the school, and the community groups are now leading after school clubs within the school. And we've then been able to step away. That's one sort of area around that. Other sort of examples that we can use are within school capacity wise. We all know schools are stretched in terms of time. We worked with the school and co-funded a hybrid teacher. So worked with us for one day, worked around School Sports Partnership for a day, and also taught for 3 days. And being able to do that, we was able to embed enrichment within to the schools, to sports leaders. We've now got 14 after school clubs up and running. And his role is now fully funded by the school, and the school have allowed that same time that was at the very first when he first started.
Yeah, I think if we look at even things like the policies and the practices and the procedures and things like that, this has been an area that we've seen as a team that's been very slow moving, because a lot of our work is deep rooted directly in communities rather than kind of at that influencing policy level. And whilst the next phase of our journey is kind of looking how can we influence up and do things differently and share that learning, I think through the PACE network, the distributed leadership, people seeing the value. We can give an example of a local healthcare provider. They were sat there and they were saying, I don't really know how physical activity aligns with us. So we've been on a journey there. And then now that they're adapting their policies and interviews that they have with service users to actually ask them directly as part of those conversations, what are the barriers that they're facing around accessing physical activity? What's preventing them from being physically active? So if we look at the journey that we've been on, not seeing themselves as a key part of this work in the community, but now they're valuing it. They can see the benefit as in physical activity, reducing inactivity, and the benefits that has on their service users anyway. But how do they play their part on this journey? And something as we would see it as simple as adding a question, the value and the insight and the data that allows us to capture, then influencing that further up into policy so we can feed that into the wider organisations in the community to help embed further change to make sure that they're having those opportunities to access, tackling those inequalities. Has been, it's been amazing, hasn't it?
Right. So in Hull, we're really new to this, and hearing all about systemic change and system change. Has the Matrix helped you understand and help other people understand what actually is system change and systemic change in relation to physical inactivity?
Yeah, so within my role, I think it's been really, really helpful. So I sit between that layer of operational and the strategic. And what I've found the Matrix to do is kind of be that toolkit to help me understand that as a team, we automatically think that it could just be one thing. And actually it normally is that kind of whole catalyst. And how do we, if we was to refer to it as the iceberg, it's not just the one thing that becomes the obvious barrier. How do we look beneath the surface and what else is there? And I think it's been really helpful for me. It's opened up that whole new world of looking at the bigger picture. And whilst I'd like to say that I've always done that, it's absolutely pushed me into new areas, new realms to be able to look at things differently and challenge myself to be able to then challenge the team. So I think bringing the team on that journey as well, like I say, for me, sitting in that in-between layer, passing up to the strategic, passing down to the team, it's making sure that collectively, operationally, we're having that time to stop, check and challenge. How is that having an effect on place base? How's that? And I know from your point of view, you've been talking to so many different people and...
Yeah, I think... Yeah, so from my perspective, I think what it has enabled us to do is create a reflection to look at both all of the 9 conditions. How are those 9 conditions interconnected with each other in our place? What are the things that are maybe connected and influencing each other? But also actually looking at it from a layered perspective. Obviously, when you look at the matrix, there's then split into 3 layers. So it's making sure that we reflect as a team, but also as a whole place, that actually an issue, for instance, around collaboration could be split and have implications across different elements. And it could be around integration and around how is it working into each other organisations. It could be more of that systemic, or it could be around that community level. And it gives us a space to be able to stop and think through all of those different lenses and take the time to understand the interconnectivity and that complexity better.
Has it helped people that are not as involved in this programme of work understand systemic change? Because we'll talk to some people in Hull and it's already like, oh, just put another park, another junior park run over in this park and it'll be sorted. But obviously we know it's a lot more complex than that because we've been doing that for years and things are necessarily not shifting the dial, are they? So has the Matrix helped other people to see, I guess, the need for systemic change opposed to perhaps how we did it in the olden days where we put on programmes of activities and initiatives here and there?
I think for me, looking at it, is it creates a framework to have conversations that you wouldn't normally have.
Right.
So it gives you an opportune moment to dig into the way in which we work as a place and ask questions that
just go unhidden, like they're just hidden. We wouldn't normally say it. We wouldn't normally challenge ourselves in that way. So that gives us a framework to be able to be a little bit more impartial, which I think then starts to give different discussions, which then unearths the systemic issues naturally without it being forced, like you're preaching at them. We need to be thinking systemically, is it actually gives them a moment to understand their role in the system and also how the system is actually maybe causing some of the issues that they're seeing in their place. So it takes them on that journey, and not everybody will get that in the first instance, or the second, or the third, or the fourth, but actually it will be a real contributor to trying to bring people along that systemic journey.
Yeah, and I think from a team perspective, us having that broader way of thinking, as Lauren said, it's actually allowing us to then channel some of that way of thinking and broader ways to question within the community, within the place. So as we've got that distributed leadership, we've got some great advocates in the community that are continuing the work that we've kind of, through a scaffolding approach, obviously enabled them to do that. But now they're going out and they're thinking, is it sustainable? And I never thought I would have members of the community saying, oh, I've got this new idea, stop. Is it sustainable? Or what is the barrier? Or are we hitting all of the needs? What is the data and the evaluation telling us? And I think it's given the team and those advocates in the community that confidence to be able to ask those unasked questions, which is really, really refreshing, because it's just, it's a new way of working.